Wow. We've reached the end of season 1 of our God Did It series. What a blessing it was to hear all the great things God did for his beautiful people. Let us look back at some of our highlighted special moments, some with tears, some full of joy, some of remembrance. Tonight is special. We thank all of you for tuning in with us this season, and we hope you enjoy.
You've had an interesting just journey through your life. And one thing I do know, and the church knows, is that you always testify of how good God has been to you. So I just want to just start off, as you reflect and, again, so everybody knows this ain't rehearsed and nothing like that. I told Sister Beavers, we're just really here talking. But if you just look at your story from the beginning as a youngster and growing up and then coming to California, tell us a little bit about that, from what you remember about that.
I always use the scripture that say, if it had not been the Lord who was on my side, where would I be? Because I've gone through a lot. I come from the rough side of the mountain, but I still had a good life. Yeah. I remember how we didn't have a car because there were so many of us.
How many was it?
18.
For those
18 kids.
18
kids, and I was the third from the oldest. When I was a young kid, my mother, matter of fact, she married my stepfather when I was 2. And I never was a foster kid, but I felt like one because of the way I was treated as a little kid. But God gave me so many favors and so much love from my mom that I couldn't dwell on the rough treatment that I had as a little kid or as I grew up. I remember my father didn't even know my name until I became a teenager because he called me this and that. I heard him say many times, I don't want to raise another man's kid. I just want to take care of my own kids, but I was there. My mother was there for me, a package deal. But I lived through that. I remember one time I got so upset with him that me and my other sister, 2 years older than me, we was playing in the house. It was raining, and we was playing and making a lot of noise. And he came in the room. Instead of him beating both of us, he whipped me. And he whipped me so bad that I was bleeding. And then he threw me against the wall, and he kicked me. And he had me so upset that my sister was crying, saying, "Please don't hurt her no more. Leave her alone." So I remember I must have been about 9 years old. I went outside. And I found a stick. And I got this stick and I trimmed it and made a point to it. And I came back in the house and I went in his room and I said, "You see this stick? If you touch me again, I'm going to kill you." I meant it. And he knew I meant it. He never touched me again. And my mom was so afraid. And she said, "Ursi, why?" And she wanted to hide me away because she thought he was going to hurt me, but he didn't.
That's true. So take us back years ago. You feeling healthy. You were always a man of health. Me, a young guy, just witnessing and watching you minister, whether we came to the church as youngsters or just being together as family members. And then you come to a road where your health is challenged.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that beginning time when you noticed some things changing with your health?
Yes. Before I went into the hospital, I had this dream. And I had just taken my daughter to school and dropped her off. And I said, well, let me come back and get a quick wink, so to speak. And I jumped back in the bed. And it's amazing. Of all my time and my relationship with God, I've never had a dream like that. It was like the Lord took me up to a third heaven. I couldn't see anybody, but all I could hear was voices speaking in tongues, many voices speaking. And I could see myself standing with my hands upright. And it was like a laser of light that shone from heaven and went all the way through my body. And through that, the Lord let me know, even though that you're going through this whole situation, I've healed you, but you got to go through the process. I'm living off of the sustenance of God.
Yes.
God sustaining not only all of us, but because we're healthy doesn't mean that all is well.
Tell us about that, once you heard. When did you find out? Did they tell you right then that, well, you have a month or 2 weeks, or did you find out later that that's what they said? How did it work out?
Well, the doctors had said you need to come together and prepare for his funeral and so forth. So my wife gathered the family into the chapel.
Wait a minute. How many years ago was this?
We're talking about 13 years.
Catch that. 13 years ago. The
13
doctor said
years
a month,
ago.
2 weeks. Okay, so continue.
So my wife, she went to the chapel with my family to share what the doctors had said. But I didn't find out what the doctors had told my wife until much later, praise God, because the Lord gave me a confidence, and we have to go back, and I remember the dream, the vision that God showed me, and that was so real and so vivid. And in my walk with God, I've never dreamt or I've never been in that situation where it was a heavenly scene, but I couldn't see any physical people, but there was voices just speaking in tongues, and I could hear myself speaking in tongues. So through that whole process, there was a calmness.
Yeah.
There was a calmness. And again, I was in the hospital for 3 months. I didn't think I would ever get out of there.
Wow.
And then I had 2 weeks to go to a convalescent home to even learn how to walk again. And that was major in itself.
Wow.
Now, understand, I had 2 major operations, and not only 2 major operations, I had 3 infections that I had to deal with. Now, on top of that, any one of those infections, which I said earlier, could have taken me out.
Wow.
But not so. But God had his hands on me, and he was letting me know, and it's so important to know how your relationship is with your Savior.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's more than lip service.
Yes, sir.
And thanking God, for the calmness that he allowed me to have, and the assurance and so forth. And I think I can say this. It's one thing to quote scriptures. And some of us can quote scriptures from A to Z.
Yes, sir.
But the bottom line, do you believe what you're quoting?
Yes.
Your belief mechanism has to be intact for you to know that God stands on his word.
Yes. So first, let me get to it. This is an amazing time because not only are you I'll call you our senior or our oldest mother or member in age, but you have the spirit of a young person. You're like a young person because you're always wanting to do things. And we're celebrating you today because next month you will be 103 years old. So let's take it back to 1918. You were born in 1918. As a youngster, what was it like growing up for you? What was it like?
I had a happy life.
Okay.
Very happy life. Brought up in a Christian home. Wasn't a sanctified home, but it was a good Christian home. I wasn't allowed to. I loved to shoot marbles. I loved to climb trees because I was raised up with just boys, no other little girls there. I did all that, climbing trees, all of that. After I graduated from Votech School, got my GED, I was custodian at a school. And the superintendent said, now that you got your high school diploma, do you want to go to college? I said, I don't have the money. I couldn't go to college on no custodial salary. I don't have the money. He said, he kind of yelled. He said, I asked you, did you want to go to college? I yelled back at him. I said, yes, I do. I would love to go. He said, come here. Stand right here at my desk. He wrote me a sizable check.
Wow.
for 1 year's college tuition.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I looked at it, I said, oh, I said, I'll pay this money back. I said, but I can't pay it all back at one time. He said, that's all right. You don't have to even worry about none of that. Wow. He said, I'm doing this because I see something in you.
Amazing.
I was about 39 years old then.
Wow. Describe what the depression was for you.
I would say as things progressed, like from 16 to 18 and then to 19, it got kind of worse. That's when I would start, like, thoughts turn into actions. So those
what's suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, suicidal thoughts. Okay. I'll like think of like I'm not worthy enough, and then I'll get into a darker state, and then from going into those deep thoughts, I'd be like, okay, well, let me see what happens if I cut myself. If I cut myself, maybe I'll feel better that way. And it was kind of those, in a way, it was like an addiction, because you would keep doing it and you'd be like, how much further can I go and how much further can I push the limits? And those limits end up turning into almost trying to like completely killing myself. Like if I cut deeper, or if I would just end up trying to drown myself. I would start doing that. I would take a bath and just lay in the water, and I'll just sit there and be like, okay, well, let's see how long it would take me for me to drown myself. And from there, it just got worse. And I think when I was 21, I believe, that's when I actually tried to hang myself. And I kind of, at the time, I thought I succeeded because I passed out. But then I woke back up and I was like, I didn't do this right, because I woke back up. And so I tried again, and I tried to hang myself like on my shower rod, and I passed out again. And then from there, I was crying out to God and saying I would never do this again.
You're older, you try to hang yourself, you survive, and you said you wouldn't do it again. Yeah. Did you do it again?
I did do it again. There was a time where it was a lot, but just a lot of stresses were going on with my family, and wondering if it was if I wanted to deal with it, because there was to a point where I had to put a restraining order on my mom. And there was also my dad, because he's also was in and out of my life, but there was a time where my dad was just not in the picture at all, and it made me think man, who would love me? So I filled up the tub, and that's when I tried to kill myself, and I slightly passed out, and then the ambulance came because Dane called the cops and stuff, and that's when I had to go to the hospital.
You tried to drown yourself. You woke up to the ambulance. How did Dane know anything was going on?
I don't know, because Dane was calling me. I think everyone was calling me, but I wasn't answering my phone because I was just in such a deep, dark state. And I just didn't want to deal with it. I didn't show up for work, so I don't know how it happened. I don't know if my boss called Dane, because I was really close with my boss.
Okay.
And I don't know if she called him and told him, hey, Asia's usually early for work, because I would usually show up 10 to 15 minutes earlier because I would take the bus. And she was like, she's not here. And so Dane would try knocking on the door, and I would answer my door. And I just remember that I was just woke up from the water, and I just remember the ambulance took me to the hospital, and they asked me questions like, do you want to be admitted? And I was like, yeah. And then that's when I was seeking counseling. Okay. But that wasn't my only final attempt. So
really?
Yeah.
That wasn't the last time?
That was not the last time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell us how you all met. Tell us how you both met.
We were in the United States Navy.
Okay.
We dated for 5 years. And the latter part of that 5th year, 5 being grace, I understand it now, I didn't understand it then.
Right.
I felt like the Lord began to deal with me about coming to serve him, because I grew up in the church, but honestly, I didn't want anything to do with the church.
Yeah.
So I felt like Abraham got pulled away from the environment in which I grew up in, and he brought me here to California. So With that said, I explained to Fernando, I said, Fernando, because we live together, and I said, I feel like the Lord's dealing with me. I said, but we can't live like this and go to heaven. And so he looked at me, and I knew it was God speaking through him. He said, well, you don't want to go to heaven too bad if you're going to let me stop you. I said, whoa, okay. We met with Bishop Stewart, and Bishop Stewart said, I can marry y'all in my office. I looked around in the office. I said, I ain't going down like that, no.
Right.
So I say, Lord, whatever this is, however you're going to work it out, because I loved him, but not more than God, because I had been trained, and I know whatever you put before God, you're going to end up losing it. So I decided to let him go and walk with the Lord.
Let me ask you, was that tough?
It was tough because, you know, the flesh don't want to,
Right.
the flesh want what it wants.
Right.
But I thank God, because I said, Lord, I have the Holy Ghost, and you got to show me what this all about. I heard about it, but I knew nothing about it. You know, I knew what it took to get it, although I was in the church and he still wasn't ready, you know, to give his life to the Lord. So I'll never forget, I always worked up until time to come to church. So I was at work, it was a Friday night, and I remember it was like the pure life went out of me. And I said, oh my God, I just started to pray. I didn't know what it was. But that was the instance where Fernand had gotten shot in the head and the stomach from a carjacking. And so I never came home from church on Sundays. So that particular weekend, I said, I'm gonna go home and rest before night service. As soon as I got home, the phone rang. It was his mom. She said, brace yourself. She said, Fernando been shot. They say he ain't gonna live. He's not gonna make it. And I just dropped, and I had to get myself together, and I called, I think it was Patricia Talley, to come get me. And I said, I gotta go to the hospital. Fernando been shot. So when I got there, oh my God, I was speechless, because all of these machines and stuff plugged up to him. And during that course of that time, the doctors were saying he wasn't gonna make it. So they was just like, you know, they wanted the family to pull the plug, but they would not. They would not pull the plug. And so with that, I got a hold of Bishop Stewart. I can remember it was like it was yesterday. We was in an elevator going up to see Fernand, and the pastor say, you gonna marry that man, aren't you? I said, just as sure as the Lord raising him up out of this hospital. Because doing that, although I was looking at a dead situation, God had told me, prepare for your wedding. I was like, what? They saying this man is gonna die. He said, prepare for your wedding. And so when Bishop Stewart said that, I said, oh my God. So I knew God had to unction him to say that, to help me with what he had already told me. Although I was looking at a dead situation, God said, plan for a wedding. So, some months went on, so Bishop Stewart prayed for him, and time went on, you know, just sticking out. Fernand had a lot of friends, because Fernand was very successful in the world, and then slowly, you know, all the friends drifted away, and he was just left with me.
So, you know, I want you to just share, if you can, because before it happened, and, you know, I didn't know when it happened, and when I understand, you know, it was rough for you. Tell us about the beginning of your diagnosis and leading up to it, and when you found out about it.
So I've had 3 consecutive cancer diagnoses in the month of June, 20, 19, and 18 years ago. So I am a survivor.
Wow.
No question about it. I was treated with surgery, chemo, and radiation. The effects of that treatment is devastating to the human body. If you can survive that, you will have residual effects that are lifelong. I still have them. But I'm here to tell you that I am celebrating every moment of my life, every day, even during this COVID. You know, I am rejoicing because I am here. Every milestone that I never thought I was going to live to experience, I have. I want to tell everybody that's listening that when you're going through this, you've got to be open to receive him. You got to be open to receive him. He's going to speak to you, and you just have to be willing to accept that that's God talking to you.
Yes, yes.
So we're in the car, and I got on the freeway, and I was driving towards LA versus San Diego, which is driving back home. At this particular exit, we were at a signal. Some exits on the freeway, it stops you at a signal. and there's a street that runs across, and then across that street was a chain link fence.
Okay.
And on that fence was a banner. I want to say it was about 17 feet by maybe 5 by 17, white in red ink, red writing. The message on that banner said to me and to Cassie, Jesus died for your healing. It's still hard for me to talk about that. We had to pull over. We had to just pull over. And I said to Cassie, Jesus just spoke to both of us. That was meant for me to read. By God, that was him talking to me.
You told me about a situation that the Lord allowed you to go through, and as we were just reflecting on the time you told me and thinking about it, you were a little apprehensive of sharing the testimony. Why was that?
Well, I feel like what I went through, just my flesh. That's what it boils down to. I didn't feel like when I told my story, it'd become a household conversation.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be a household conversation. I didn't even tell my family at first because I didn't want it to be a concern.
Right.
But then, after talking to you for so long, I had to get out and talk to my mom. And, God's in charge of this all. He's in charge of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And he kind of put in my heart, this is not really, it's a testimony. I'm a vessel. But it's not even it's all about God. Like, I don't have nothing to do with it. And you're like, even if you told everybody and everybody's talking whatever they want to, what if you reach one person? Yeah. I was like, that's all it's about. And I ended up going into Corona Regional Center Hospital, and I ended up, they checked me out and told me the basics. You have high blood pressure, you need to be on, high blood pressure medicine. I'm like, okay, well, so give me a letter and let me go back and tell my boss. And they told me to hold on. They had me waiting for about 30 minutes, and I remember the young man coming back and saying, we're probably gonna have to keep you. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, we think you had 2 small heart attacks. And I said, I didn't feel it. What do you mean? I'm thinking, And he said, you can't go anywhere. We can't let you go anywhere. I've never had a broken bone.
Right.
Never even, I don't think I've been in the hospital for over 30 minutes. I've never been.
Wow.
I don't do that.
Right.
I've never had to stay over. So I just was like, oh my gosh. And nothing became reality. I just was living through the moment of him saying, do this next. And I just stayed in the hospital that night, ended up talking to my wife, didn't reach out to anybody but my wife, of course. Let her know, don't even tell the kids. And
because you didn't want to worry them.
I didn't want to, that was my whole thing with my with my family, my mom, my brothers, my sisters, even the kids. I don't want anybody to be concerned and worried, take that stress.
Right.
Because I don't know what's going on. So I sit here cool as I want to be. But I thought to myself, this is about to happen. I'm going to another this is serious. And I thought, first thing I thought is, I got a wife, beautiful wife, 3 healthy, beautiful kids. I said, my wife has a great job. I have a great job. Matter of fact, they just gave me overtime. I'm getting checks. This is all I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm cool. I got cars.
Yeah, racks on racks.
I'm fresh.
Stacks on stacks.
None of it can help me.
So it
slapped
hit you.
me in my face.
It has hit you.
Slapped me. I was like,
that
right now, not one thing that's great going on in my life, or bad, or whatever, can help me. I get in that hospital, and I remember that next morning, the actual surgeon came in, and that's when he said, Joel, this is going to be a very, it's going to be a big procedure.
Yeah.
And it's, he said, we don't even have all the equipment here for, the quadruple bypass. So they said, we're going to have all the doctors come, heart doctor, the person that assists him, another doctor that's going to be in there, I forgot the person that gives you that puts you to sleep. I forgot what he's called.
Anesthesiologist.
Yes. And I have him come, And so they all show up. And when they showed up, they were like, "You ready to go?" That was the second moment where I'm like, wait a minute. I can't do nothing. Like, there's nothing that can save me. I said, Lord, I don't know how long, like what happens when you walk in here. Just like, I've never done it before.
Right.
So I probably only got a minute to talk to you. Lord, please, right now, I need you.
Right. Tell us a little bit about the journey, whatever you want to share.
Well, I got pregnant when I was 15, and I had my first child, which is Redrick, at the age of 16. And I actually feel like I've been a single parent twice, because at that age, you don't really think a lot about trying to form a family, so to speak. You just had a baby. And that's how I felt, like I just had a baby, and I was just going to go and raise my baby. The father was in my life. We were together. We did not live together because I was still in high school. He was still in high school. So we went on and we dated for about 6 or 7 years. And in September the 14th, 1980, I got saved. So that meant at that point I stopped smoking, drinking, partying, and having sex. I'll just say it like that. And so we broke up. I broke up with him. But for some reason, he felt like he could not live without me. And he asked me to marry him 7 months later. And we did marry. And at that time, then I got pregnant, and my second child was born, which came in December of 1981.
That's Joshua.
And that's Joshua.
Right.
And then I got pregnant again, and I had a baby December 1982.
Rodney.
And that is Rodney. And then I got pregnant again, and at that moment, that's when everything started falling apart.
Okay.
The marriage was on the rocks. We were young. We did get married, probably for all the wrong reasons. I felt that at that time that I was in love with him, thought he was in love with me, but he decided that he didn't want me anymore. And I was 2 months pregnant with our fourth child.
Jasmine.
With Jasmine. And I'm at work, and I get a phone call from my brother telling me that my husband at that time had taken all of our clothes and my clothes and my children's and his children's clothes and dumped them on my father's front lawn. Because he apparently wanted to be with someone else. It was very difficult because, number one, all their clothes were hand-me-downs. I wanted to mention to you that a lot of Redrick's clothes came from your mom. He was wearing either your clothes or Rapture's clothes. And I remember getting some T-shirts from her one time. And I looked at those T-shirts and I said, wow, how in the world does she keep them so white after the kids have even worn them? You know, I'm shopping at Thrifties, or I don't even know if it was Walgreens then, buying my kids toys for Christmas, buying them shoes out of those. Redrick is at school running, and then the bottom of his shoes fall out because they're so cheap. We're eating Cheetos and drinking 7-Up for dinner. And the kids probably don't even realize that they were eating liver and rice, because I found out that liver was cheap. So I would buy liver and cut it up real little and put some gravy over it and pour it over rice, and they would eat that.
So you were taking what you had and making the best out of it.
Made the best out of it. I made a powwow in the bedroom, because even though we lived with my father, you were limited to being in any of his areas or in his space. Of course, we could use the kitchen and the bathroom and all those things that we needed to use, but we mainly stayed in the 2 bedrooms. It's like, just stay in the room. So I would lay a blanket down on the floor, and I would make it like it was a big picnic and just make it like it was just a fun time. And we're just having hot dogs and Cheetos, of course. And that's dinner. And let me mention Sister Mills. I don't know if you remember her.
I definitely remember Sister and Elder Mills.
She worked for a school district, and she found out or noticed that I was struggling or had a thought or an unction from God, and she would give me the lunches from the schools, and that would be our dinner.
Wow.
My mom said, Ursa, you 18, you got to go, and it's best for you to go. And I remember sitting on the side of the road, waving down the Greyhound bus. I had never been anywhere in my life from home to come to California. And now when I tell the story, tears come to my eyes because it was so sad for me leaving her. And she said, you're going to be okay. Go to California, and you're going to finish school, and you're going to be all right. And I remember when I came out here, my aunt and uncle, right after that, they ended up getting divorced, so I had to go to work. I had went to sign up for UCLA. I went to college for a few years, and I had to leave because I had to get a job. And I used to send J.C. Penney's and Montgomery Ward credit card home every year for my mom and to buy the kids school clothes. My mom was my best friend. We were very close. I remember my mom saying, Ursi, God gonna bless you. And I was working 2 jobs to get my mother to come out here to live because I wanted to buy her a home. I've been a go-getter all my life. I've been determined all of my life because I know God was with me.
Yes.
And as I was trying to buy this home, one morning, my mother called me. I never forget, she called me. And she said, Ursi, I don't feel good. And I said, what's wrong, Mother? She said, my head been hurting for a couple of days. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm on my way to work, so call Ella Stewart. He was Ella Stewart at the time. And I said, I'm going to let him know you're calling him, and he's going to pray for you. And she did. I called him. He said, well, tell her to call me. He prayed for her, and he called me at work. And he said, your mom going to be okay. I just prayed for her. So I said, I'll call her the next day because I was going to my second job that evening. So the next day, I didn't call my mom because I went out to lunch with my coworkers. And I said, you know what? I said, I got to call my mom today for good. I got to call her. So I was eating a sandwich at work, and so I got the phone call, and my sister Jean, she called me, and she said, Ursi? I said, oh, God. I said, it's Mother, huh? I said, she's gone. I know she was gone. When she said, kept calling my name about 4 or 5 times, and I couldn't even chew the food that was in my mouth. I remember taken out. I don't know what really happened then, but Jean had talked to my boss, told him to call Ella Stewart, let them know, take me a taxi, and the taxi took me to your father's house. And I remember him sending Jonathan to get my car from work. I was working in Culver City. First time I ever seen Mother Stewart cry, she took me home later on, and she was washing my dishes, and tears started running down her eyes because I kept asking her why. I said, I have no reason to live now. My best friend is gone. My mother's gone. And I asked God to take me because I didn't want to be here without my mom. But anyway, she got me to understand what was the purpose. God had a purpose for me. He had a purpose for me being here. And I didn't know at the time the purpose was, this is where you want me to be, in the Word. So you can keep me, you can keep my mind. Yeah. Because that mind, as they said, a terrible thing to lose. And I was about to lose mine to a certain point. But God did it for me, Pastor.
Wow.
And to hear that kind of news, and I've never been in the hospital. Never been in the hospital or been sick or had a broken bone in my entire life. But knowing that we all come to a crossroad where, especially serving the Lord, we all have and will have a cross to bear somewhere. You know, if it's not sooner or mid or later, somewhere there's going to be a little crossword, a challenge.
Yes.
To not only challenge your faith, but to challenge everything about you, what you've learned in your relationship with God.
Yeah.
So I'm living off the sustenance and of God.
Yes.
Because as long as the fire is burning, God is going to sustain me.
Yes, sir, Bishop. When was the last time?
My very last time was when I was still 22, and I was still like, it was just hard for me because when you're going through counseling, you review a lot of your past memories, and you go through everything, and you're talking with your counselor. And that's the hard part of counseling, is just to get all of that stuff out. And at the time, I didn't think of it as a healing process. I thought it was like, why am I reliving these moments of hurt and pain?
Right.
And it's making me worse. And I wasn't thinking about the beauty of it. I was thinking of the bad side of it, the dark side of it. And I just kept putting myself down and saying, see, like, no one loves you because I'm reliving everything. You're just feeling that way. So that's when I grabbed a knife and I was gonna cut my throat. And I was like, this is it. And
You were by yourself?
by myself in my apartment. Well, it was kind of a dorm type of way, but it's your apartment because you're sharing with other people. But yeah, that's when I grabbed the knife and I was gonna cut myself, like slice my throat. And I remember having it laying on the bed, like crying and saying, I'm not worthy of to live. And it was complete darkness in my room. And I just remember when I had it, I tried to slice my throat, and then I looked over and I saw this tall, dark figure in my room. And I got so scared, and I knew that it was death ready to take me. And I was scared, like, I just can remember how it felt like it's just still haunting me to this day, that darkness that was rooted in my room and with me. And I just remember staring at that figure, and I was like, I got scared, and I was like, oh God. And I remember I was crying and praying, and then Dane called me at that same time. And I remember I was crying to him, and he was praying for me and saying, why are you doing it? And that's when I realized, like, nothing else. That's when I realized that God is real, because I was questioning God's existence. Even though I was a Christian, I knew everything about the Bible. I knew how you should allow it to cast your cares on him, but I was trying to take the will, and I was trying to basically control my life when I shouldn't have. I should just allow him to handle the situation. And from there, I just remember pleading to God, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I should have never doubted your existence. I should knew that you were real, and you were there for me the whole entire time in protecting me, even though I was trying to do it myself and trying to take matters in my own hands. But you are the reason why I'm breathing, even if I don't think I'm worthy enough to breathe.
Tell us about that. What do you think when you say, man, I made it to 100? What do you think about that?
I just thank and praise God. I give God all the praises, because had not been for me getting saved when I was young and having escaped the corruption that's in the world through lust.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful.
Being allowed to be a partaker of God's divine nature.
That's amazing. The blind part, the part about you being blind and then being able to see. I want you to talk about that for you, being actually physically blind from what happened, and then the miracle that happened with that.
When I first came out the hospital, they handed me a handicap, walking cane for the blind people, one that folded up, and they gave me a black eye patch. In other words, they were saying, this is what you're gonna need. And I just was like, I don't think so. I ain't gonna be using this. I left it in my closet. And then one day, one service, I was in here, and your father used to come out the side, and I used to be sitting in the front, and I saw a glimpse of, like a shadow. I said, I know this man must be a big man. His voice sound big. And then I saw his shadow, and I was like, oh, something's going on here. And then I was like telling my wife, I said, I think I saw a bishop today. And she was like, how you see him? I said, I told you I saw him. Then we had to give me an appointment to get me fitted for some glasses. And it was a lady, an elderly lady that worked in the hospital. she was trying to tell me now, you know what I told you before when you left here, you don't need no glasses. And then we going back and forth, I'm explaining it to her, and then she finally was like, I think you're right. You could be right. Because they had me to read the board with the letters on it. And she was, miracle.
That's right.
I said, yeah, miracle.
I'm not going to say it's easy, but I know with the Holy Ghost, it will help you through anything, through thick and thin. And, you know, I always wonder, I say, Lord, how is it that we say we want to go to heaven, but we can't get along down here? When it gets hard, everybody wants to jump ship or whatever. But a lot of times you got to take the good with the bad, and the good always outweighs the bad. I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, but I love this man. And hopefully that portrays that I do, because he was good to me. And so I said, Lord, you help us. And he did. And I said, and when I found out I was pregnant with Emmanuel, of course everybody was shocked at that. I said, Lord, because my husband can't do what normal, fathers would do with sons, and of course that affected him somewhat. I don't want my son to ever want for anything. And God has blessed me to financially take care of my two men. Like none other. Like, we can go on vacations anywhere we think we want to go in the world. We could go.
And we see
that. And God did that.
Yeah.
And so I thank him for that, because he gives me the strength to do it. It's no way easy at all.
Right.
But because of love gets you through anything.
That's
Whatever
right.
you do, you got to have the love there. If the love ain't there, you can't do it.
That's correct.
Because things happen, family, different things will happen, but it's the love that keeps you going.
That's good. That's good.
God is so good. And I don't want to take your role and preach. But I'm gonna say this, because this is about.
Go ahead and preach. You preach. Go ahead.
This is about God and what God is able to do.
Yes.
And this is testing your faith. Cancer will test your faith.
Yeah.
But testing your faith produces perseverance. It really does. It produces perseverance. And I'm going to tell you that going through chemo, there's no joke. I mean, it's no joke. The radiation, none of it on your body is no joke. But I armed myself. I put an armor of faith.
Yes.
I put an armor of knowledge. So I educated myself on my disease, and I was going to go into this fighting. So I was fighting with the doctors, with their treatment, but I was fighting with God's armor.
But I was kind of angry that why did I have to go through it?
Because you know some people that have done far worse.
Far worse. And then, I mean, me and you talk about transparency all the time.
Yeah.
I look at my friends. I look at brothers and sisters. Not that I want anybody to go through what I went through, but I'm like, no one's ever, why me out of everybody?
Yeah.
I think your dad said it one time. He said, when you hit rock bottom, do you know when you hit the floor, you cannot go under the floor.
Right.
That's the furthest you're able to go. So I'm thinking in my head, this is like, the only thing I'm able to do is depend on you.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
So that's when I'm like,
that's dope. Though.
Let's do it. I don't know why this happened.
Right.
And even to this day right now, just keeping it real with you, I went through something I feel like is really big.
Yeah.
Which it was.
Yeah.
But for some strange reason, right now as I'm sitting here, and I even have said it yesterday, when we say, it's not that bad.
Right.
But that's just the mental that God has given me. Plus, that's the steps and the direction that He's put me on now.
Yeah. Okay.
But of course, I'm talking to Him from the beginning. I'm talking to Him. Yeah. But that relationship doesn't start with me. I think that relationship didn't really start with me until I just dropped everything and said, through the hurt, through the pain, through whatever, you gotta go.
Yeah.
You're not gonna just stay put.
Yeah.
So if you gotta go, I can't do it. I'm not gonna lean on my own understanding no more. I'm not doing it.
That's right.
I don't have the 100% story of 100%. I feel like I understand. I understand where he's brought me and maybe what he's trying to do to me, but I don't know the goal. Me and you talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't 100% know that goal, but I definitely know he's changed me, and it was for the better.
God did it, for sure. All glory and honor belong to God. It boggles my mind, too. It amazes me and it was God. It's all God. It's going to take God. You definitely need God in your life. I could not have done anything that I've done without God, because that's my strength. It says the joy of the Lord is your strength. I have a favorite scripture, which is Psalms 37. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down as the grass and withered as the green herb. Then it goes on to say in the other scriptures to trust in the Lord, to delight in the Lord, to commit to the Lord, and then to rest in the Lord. Then it goes down a little further and it says, cease from anger and forsake wrath. Because all of those things, all of those emotions come up. You want to do, don't think to do evil. He said to do good to your enemies, to pray for them.
Believe it and trust that he has
Trust me
it.
that God will. You have to wait on him. Mine was 11 years. 11 years. Maybe yours lasts a day or two. I remember when my kids used to come to me and ask me something, because he said, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
If you would like to sow into what Greater Emmanuel Temple is doing here in Linwood, we have 4 ways for you to do so. First, you can give on our mobile app. Just type Greater Emmanuel Temple into your app store, hit download, and then give. Next, you can give online at our website at greateremmanuel.org/donate. Or you can give on Cash App at $GETFAM. Lastly, you can give by texting GETFAM to 1-888-364-4483. Thank you for your gift. We look forward to seeing you on our online weekly services.
Good news! Greater Emmanuel Temple is now a COVID-19 testing location. At GET, we are so pleased to be able to provide this free service. That's right, free service to any and everyone. All you have to do is pre-register ahead using the link. You can find the link on our website and on the GET Facebook and Instagram app. Share this with everyone, your family, friends, and on all of your social media platforms. We also have a giveaway for every person that receives a test. We are open every week, Wednesday and Friday, Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Stay safe, everyone, and know your results. It's free and easy.